everybody, it's Sarah again, and today I'm going to give you some tips on how to fight and overcome anxiety. Now, I am a very anxious person. I always have been. I also deal with depression. I was diagnosed as bipolar at age 12, and bipolar oftentimes comes along with depression and anxiety. But I am just all over the place when it comes with anxiety. It is definitely my biggest issue to overcome. And since I've become a mom, it's gotten way worse. It's been up and down throughout my life of worsening anxiety to less anxiety and just kind of all over the place. Right now, with these tips and with my medication, I'd say that I'm at like a 4 out of 10, pretty stable. But I wasn't always like that, and I know how destabilizing anxiety can be and how crippling it can be. It can really affect your life. Like, it's intense. This time last year, I would wake up with crippling anxiety. I would have to wake up my mom and have her have coffee with me just because I felt like I was going to explode. I couldn't sit and watch TV. I couldn't listen to podcasts. I couldn't do anything without feeling like my heart was going to explode because my anxiety was so bad. I didn't want to take my kids anywhere. I was terrified of them getting snatched. I still am, but it's not so crippling. I would say that I was at a 10 out of 10 this time last year, and now I'm at a 4, so that's improvement. And it's not just from the medication, it's from all these tips. And a lot of these I have learned from my therapist. Shout out to her, she is just incredible. And I'm so lucky to have found her. But yeah, let's get started on these tips. So the first one is to identify your causes of anxiety and your triggers. Now I know you can have generalized anxiety, and I do too, but there are certain things that make it worse. One thing for me is social situations like parties. I don't mean like a college rager, I mean like a football party or something like that. I have social anxiety and I don't do well in those situations. Another one is being out with my children. Like I said, I'm terrified of them getting snatched, and I'm always on like the lookout. Another one for me right now is like love songs or romantic movies, because I am recently divorced and it makes me sad and it makes me rethink the past and all of that. So those are some of my triggers. Yours might be completely different. They might stem from a past trauma, and they might just be general, and it seems like you don't have triggers, but you do. So really take the time to figure out what those are. And a great way to do that is have a mood journal. So throughout the day, you just write down, right now I'm feeling anxious, and write down what you're doing and what you're thinking at that time. And you can also write down, right now I'm feeling happy, I don't have any anxiety. Write down what you're doing and what you're thinking. Throughout time, you'll see patterns and be able to identify your triggers. Once you have identified them, there's coping mechanisms you can use when you are triggered. You also can avoid them as much as possible. Whatever seems like the best option for you, do that. So that's my second tip, is find coping mechanisms, and I'm going to give you a few in this video, but they really are specific to you. One of my unhealthy coping mechanisms is eating, and I'm working on it. I'm actually doing the OMAD diet right now. I'm going to make a whole nother video on that. But some healthy ones for me is like reading, playing a game on my phone, playing with my children. All of these things I'm going to talk about. But find some coping mechanisms, and if it doesn't hinder your life to avoid them, then avoid them. There's nothing wrong with saying, no, I don't want to go to this party because you're having a bad anxiety day. Like, it's not going to end your life. It's not going to, like, when you're grown, be like, oh my gosh, I really wish I would have gone to that one party. Like, no, that's not going to happen. So find coping mechanisms or avoid it. My next tip, and this is a huge one that has helped me, I get in what I call thought spirals, where I'll think of one negative thought, like the divorce was all my fault. And then I spiral and it just goes on and on and on and gets worse and worse and worse and gets more out of reality. And in the past, I couldn't stop it. Now I know how to. So these are called thought stopping exercises. And the best one that I have found is actually an acronym called STOP. And in this acronym, the S stands for stop. Literally means go, hold on. I'm not going to think about that. Stop the thought in its tracks. Next, the T stands for take a break and breathe. Try to think about nothing for a minute. Just do breathe in and out. Take a break from whatever you're doing. Go in the bathroom, go in another room, whatever it may be. And just take a moment to recollect things. O stands for observe. And what that means is kind of like not just take in your surroundings, but observe, why are you thinking this? And with the observing, you want to really think about the facts. So whatever thought you are having, is it factual? Is it only emotion-based? Am I out of reality right now? Is this just out of fear? Think about the facts. For one example would be, I'm a bad mother, okay? I think this sometimes, and it's hard. I think every good mother worries about being a bad one. So for that example, I would stop, I'd take my deep breaths, and then I would observe, what is factual about this? Am I really a bad mother? No. Do I keep my kids safe? That's a fact. Do I love them? That's a fact. Do I put them in harm's way? No, that's not true. So you just kind of go on and on as long as you need until you see the facts of the situation. And my therapist always tells me, stick to the facts, Sarah. I'm a very emotional person. I'm led by my emotions, and it can be really difficult. But once you are able to do these thought-stopping exercises and focus on the facts, it gets easier and easier. So that's the third step of it. Step number 4, the P in stop, is participate and proceed. So what that means is, okay, we've stopped the thought, we've taken a break, we've observed what's true and what's not. Now it's time to participate in whatever you're doing and move on. So that might look like, okay, I am a good mom. I'm going to let this thought go, and I'm going to keep doing the dishes. Simple. It's not simple, though. It is hard to do until you get in the hang of doing it. But you will. You just have to practice and practice and practice, and you'll get there. Another tip is breathing exercises, and my favorite one I call the 5-8-5. So breathing truly does calm you down and almost give you a reset. It seems like simple and like everybody says, just breathe, just breathe. If you're having a panic attack, that's like the worst thing you want to hear. It's like, okay, I'm trying now. But this 5-8-5 is what it is you breathe in for 5, hold for 8, and then out for 5. And you do this over and over and over and over until you feel calmed down. It really does work wonders, and you can do this anywhere. You're at work, you're at the zoo, you're outside, you're doing dishes, you're doing whatever. You don't have to go somewhere and change what you're doing. Like, you can do this anywhere. Even when you're driving, you can do it. And obviously, don't close your eyes if you're driving, but it does help quite a bit. So definitely, I would recommend trying that. The next technique to help with anxiety is called tense and release. And this one almost like shuts the anxiety off and helps you move on from it. So what you do is you start either from the top or the bottom of your body. So I normally start from the top. And what you do is you tense. So tense all your muscles in your neck and release. Then do your shoulders. Tense and release. Then do your hands. Tense and release. And you keep doing that throughout your whole body. And it gives you a reset. It calms down your brain just like the breathing exercises does. And it helps you get out of that thought cycle. It gives your body some relaxation and helps you reset. So try that. It's something simple that you also can do almost anywhere, and it really works great. My next tip is to have a change in scenery. So if you're inside, go outside. If you're outside, go inside. Or even just go to a different room in your house. If you've been sitting watching Netflix for an hour, like, go to a different room. Get out of the house. Like, a change in scenery changes your perspective and changes your thoughts. It does help. It doesn't help as much as the ones I would have said before, but it does help. And if you combine it with the breathing exercises, the thought stopping exercises, all of that, then it can make a big difference. Another one is a change in temperature. So this is really for if you're having like a panic attack or really, really bad anxiety. What you can do is you can stick your hand in a bowl of ice water, and it immediately changes the chemistry in your brain to where you stop thinking about it. You also can jump into a hot or a cold shower. If it's hot or cold outside, go for a walk. The change in temperature changes your thoughts and almost stops you in your tracks and puts you in a new direction. I don't use this one as much because I don't really have panic attacks anymore. But when I did try this, especially like the cold water. I just run my hands under the cold water in the sink, and it did help. This next one is huge, and that's mindfulness. Now, I'm sure you've heard a lot about mindfulness all over TikTok, all over everything, because it does help your life tremendously and make a big impact. I'm still working on this one. If you're anxious, it's really hard to be in the moment and be mindful. And to me, that's what mindfulness means, is being in the moment, being in present moment. But there's some exercises you can do to be more mindful. One of them is to observe things around you. Like, say, if you're outside, I see a tree. The tree is blowing in the wind. I see a bird on that tree. And you just continue so that you are in the moment. And if you're having these thought spirals like I have, that kind of brings you into the present and brings you out of it. And my therapist says for mindfulness, you should observe, describe, participate, which is the exact same thing that I was just talking about. My next one is meditation or prayer. So I can't meditate. I just can't. I've tried. I can't do it. However, I am Christian. And prayer helps a lot for me to get me out of the moment of anxiousness. It does the same thing as meditation does. So if you're not religious, then try meditation. There's lots of free meditation videos on YouTube. You can Google and find some free tips on how to do it, and just practice it. And anytime that you're feeling overly anxious, pray or meditate if you can. Next one is huge, and that's have distractions and keep busy. If all you have to do is sit around and think, don't you think you're going to be anxious? You need to have things to do. And let's say it's your day off. Okay, do the laundry, clean the house, go out for lunch, go for a walk. do your hair and makeup, do whatever so that you're distracted if you're feeling really anxious. For me, if I'm feeling anxious, I immediately try to find an activity to do. And it definitely is helpful. And a distraction can be as simple as watching Netflix too, as long as you're really making sure that you're just focused on what the show is and not in your brain. So distract yourself. Next one is exercise, and like I said in my last video, I'm not very good at this one, but I'm working on it. I'm on a weight loss journey, and it does help with anxiety and depression hugely. If you're somebody that exercises and see that it helps for you, great, keep doing it. It is proven to help mental health. I'm not just making this up. Like, I'm sure you've heard all over the place, exercise is good for your mental health. And it's true, so try exercising. Next one might be a little controversial, but it's true and it works. And that's have some adult time, if you know what I mean. So have sex or do it on your own. This is awkward to talk about, but if you are like really anxious, that release tremendously helps. That's all I'm gonna say about that one. You can kind of fill in the blanks from there. The next is therapy. I explained in my last video how helpful therapy has been for me. There are lots of reservations around therapy, and I get that. I have gone in between therapists my entire life, and I've had a lot of crap ones. But I have found one that's great, and that's how I learned all of these coping mechanisms and exercises. And she has really helped tremendously on my anxiety journey. So just try it. Start with BetterHelp. It's cheap and you can change your therapist whenever you want. So if you're trying to find your therapist, the one that's going to work for you, that's the easiest way to do it. My last one is medication. Medication is not for everybody, but it's a very useful tool, and sometimes it's necessary. For me, it's necessary. I cannot thrive and I cannot function without my anxiety medication. It feels like I'm gonna have a heart attack, and I can't focus on anything. I can't do my schoolwork. I can't take care of my kids, none of that. Anxiety medication is a little bit different from antidepressants in that it doesn't take as long to find one that works for you because they all kind of do the same thing. That's been my experience anyways. So consider medication. It's not going to hurt you. But if you're somebody who's anti-medication, wants to do all things natural, do all the tips that I stated before. And yeah, I hope this helps somebody. Leave in the comments below a tip that you have, or what your favorite tip was, or your story with anxiety. I'd love to hear it and read it. And until next time, bye guys. Subscribe, like, and comment.